What's up? This is Hormozi's $100 million virtual implementation workshop kind of walkthrough. Yesterday we started it. Kind of the key idea being to scale a business, you need to deconstrain the business. And, there's always one constraint that is the biggest constraint. Or there's only one constraint because once you deconstrain the constraint, then a new constraint is the constraint. So by definition, there's only one constraint. We're talking about deconstraining the business, and then we kind of just generally talk about demand constrained versus supply constrained. Do you have not enough people that want to buy your stuff, not enough people coming and buying, or do you have too many people coming and buying, you don't have enough supply, you don't have a way to fulfill it all? I gotta find this thing. Here it is. So let's go ahead and jump back into the video, and then I'll be back at the end to retrieve from memory what I learned. All right, there's a lot to break down here, so I'm gonna try and do this relatively quickly here. It's dense. This whole workshop is dense, and I'm just thinking that most people aren't gonna get the information from this workshop, even if they watched it. And that kind of goes along with what this this workshop talks about, at least early on. So we talked about constraints already. The whole big picture of this workshop is going to be constraints, leverage, and compounding. Constraints, leverage, and something else. Constraints, leverage, and the playbooks. That's kind of what the big picture of this thing is, the workshop. So as far as the goals, he listed out 3 goals. First is to get you to change your behavior so that you're focusing on the constraint, to focus on leverage specifically. So to be focused on leverage and constraint, I think they're tied in together, because the constraint and leverage are tied in because you gain leverage from focusing on the constraint. So I think it's focusing on leverage and constraint. The second goal is to increase your odds of success by choosing the right playbook to then attack the constraint. And then also 3, to improve your conviction on the value of the playbooks and the AI tools, as well as their, how to use them, and that you can use them, and that you should use them. Okay, so part 1 of this training or workshop is basically, this is why I got it confused earlier. The part 1 is called constraints, leverage, and compounding. He says the 3 abstract essence of business. Okay. So he starts off right away talking about learning. And in the past, I've been like, I don't really agree with what he talks about with learning, because I've spent a lot of time, probably a lot more time, actually studying the research around learning and thinking about learning than Hormozi even has. And it's the first thing he talks about in this workshop, so it's important. And I know it's important because when you talk about compounding and leverage, if you abstract it far enough, you start to get to things like meta skills and learning itself, the ultimate meta skill, which he addresses here. He says the skill, or first of all, he says his operational definition of learning is same condition, new behavior. It's a very simplistic way of looking at learning. I tend to think of learning in a more broad, abstract way, in that learning is defined by experience leading to brain change. Now that could possibly be not exactly true, but generally growth of the brain is more accurate. Experience leading to growth of the brain. It's hard to say, because you could say, yeah. Well, we're gonna just keep with Hormozi stuff. That's his operational definition of learning. And so then he starts to talk about skills, and skills are often groupings of behaviors and skills. So when you say basketball, you're really referring to dribbling, shooting, passing, leadership and teamwork, and all these other skills that go into um, basketball, right? So for business, you can break it down, marketing, sales, product delivery, product development, hiring, and there's others. I think that actually that book, The Personal MBA, is a great way to look at the different chunks of business and the skills within the skill of business. Okay, so then we talk about basically, as far as info products go, books, courses, workshops. Why do some people succeed? Why do other people not? And typically, it comes down to the people that succeeded had other skills before the info product than the other person that didn't succeed. It typically comes down to skills on discipline and how to get stuff done and how to acquire information, how to implement information, etc. And so he talks about abstractly again, in an idealized way. How could he get everybody to have 100% success? Well, first of all, you need everyone to have like a standardized K through 12 education where they meet all the standards of reading, writing, communicating, learning, decision making, thinking, things of this nature, right? If you can't read, you can't get any information from Hormozi's books, and so Hormozi's books are, in this very narrow sense, don't have any value to you. Okay. Right. And so he talks about learning as a bridge, and once there's a hole in the bridge, then you can't keep going forward. Yeah, that's actually exactly how I used to think of learning back when I lived in Colorado, which would have been around 2022. So 3 years ago, and I don't think of learning as that linear or narrow anymore. It's an okay idea. I don't fully agree with it, but I think the main point is basically that there are constraints to the individual and there are constraints to the business. And the constraints to the individual are what limit the success. The success limits of your success is due to your constraints as an individual, whatever that might be. In trying to reach your goal, you're going to have, things that are limiting you the most. And if you focus on other things and never focus on the constraint, you won't reach that goal, right? That's kind of the idea, at least I think. And for business, it's systems. What system is the constraint for growth? Okay. Yeah, every info product has limited information. Every book has limited information. It doesn't teach you a book on business doesn't teach you how to read typically, right? It's not going to walk you how to. This is what the letter A sounds like, right? So in that sense, every book, every info product has limited information, and people will come in having different experience and skills. And so this is fundamentally one of the biggest differences in results that vary. Why do results vary for info products? Differing level of skills and experience coming into a product. Right, and he talks about meta skills. Meta skills being the highest leverage because they improve all other skills. So if you can find meta skills for business that improve, how you market, how you do sales, how you build your hiring system, all this stuff, right? Those are extremely valuable, right? I literally have a document about meta skills from around 2022 that I built out. So yeah, I know this. I talk about meta skills all the time. I love the idea. I think the ultimate meta skill by far is learning. I think he does too. He doesn't directly state it. Maybe he hasn't really realized how it is the most high leverage meta skill. And that's what this literally is a learning system I have built, is me talking to this camera right now. It's pretty meta. Yeah, that's basically it for today. So we'll be back tomorrow to continue in this course. I will talk to you tomorrow. See you.